Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Wick here. Going to be talking about AI and the uses for it for reselling. I know there's a lot of people who do not like AI. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about it, like all the weird videos you see online that are AI generated that, in my opinion, are just stupid because they're not real. I get on Instagram to check my flipping junk page and it recommends me all these things of like bears coming up and taking babies off porches and stuff like that. And you're like, none of this is real. What's the point?
Oh my gosh.
There! Get back!
Good girl, Willow. It's okay, baby. I've got you.
But there are some uses when it comes to eBay, such as research being the big one. Not so much the AI generated descriptions that you get. You can use that on directly on eBay now. There's some photo editing, removing backgrounds, brightening a photo. So the buyer can see details better. That kind of stuff is good. But the big thing, I think, is research. It looks like the sun's shining directly in my face here, but what I have to show you here is this lamp that I picked up at a Goodwill. This is a ballerina lamp. I didn't know much about it other than it was in really good condition, really cool looking. It was older and it was only $5. So of course I bought it. I get it home, I start trying to do some research and there's this marking on it that says CAP 1087. So I started doing searches for that. I couldn't find any information on Google or searching for sold comps on eBay. So I turned to ChatGPT, which is a AI kind of conversational tool where you can ask it questions, it'll give you answers. It's basically a glorified search engine. There's just a little spot in the blinds where this light is shining directly into my eyeball. Let me shift over here. But we're going to take a look at that. I'll show you kind of how I'm using it to research. I was able to find some great information on this and some other items because the sales comps weren't looking great on some of these ballerina lamps. And I thought, well, I could still probably sell it for $20 or $30, but it just sold for $75 plus shipping. So I feel like if I wouldn't have been able to do this research, I might have lost out on some extra money. So here's ChatGPT. It is free to use. You do have to sign up for an account, I believe. They have some premium stuff you can pay for as well, but absolutely none of that is necessary, right? So I'm just going to ask it some questions about ballerina lamps. So I just type in, I found a ballerina figure lamp at Goodwill and it has a marking CAP 1087 on it. Give me some information. As soon as you send it, it's going to start generating. It's going to search the web. It's all the data points. I don't know exactly what it uses. Basically, it just uses information that people's already given online. You just picture the internet as a brain and it's doing some work there. Here are the results. It showed me some pictures of some. Good question. I couldn't find any solid documented reference for a CAP 1087 on the lamp. You have some ideas it's given, like this one, CAP could hint at Capodimonate porcelain. Possible that CAP PT 1087 is not a maker name, but rather a factory or mold number. And there's just a lot of information. I'm not going to read through all of it. Give some information about comparable lamps. Then get down here to the bottom. It says what to do next. Here are some steps you can take to try identify. Take high quality photos, which is what I'm going to try here. It says, if you like, you can send me photos. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. So here's some photos that I took of it and I'm just going to send them here. It's asking for the base and the mark so they can narrow it down. Thanks for the photos. They help a lot. Here's what I can tell. Your lamp is almost certainly a mid-century chalkware or plaster lamp, likely from the 40s to 60s, made by a smaller decorative lamp manufacturer rather than a high-end porcelain maker. This type of figurine lamp was commonly sold in department stores, gift shops, and mail order catalogs. They often feature ballerinas, dancers, and classical ladies. More about the material, the chalkware, socket and wiring information. CAP is an abbreviation for the company or mold maker, and 1087 is the figure number. Says what it doesn't match with, what resembles the marks, etc. But you get down here, likely maker category, Continental Art Company style makers, which turns out this is what this is, Continental Art Company. Value, it says these lamps do sell, especially ballerinas. Depending on condition, it says yours looks good. And it says typical ranges on Etsy and eBay for similar chalkware dancer lamps, $40 to $150. Then we get down here to the bottom where it says, I can also help you write an accurate eBay listing title and description, estimate price based on comps, suggested keywords, identify whether the socket needs replacement. Now, I don't recommend doing this, but just for fun, we'll say, write an accurate eBay listing title and description. So here's the information it gave me. eBay title, Max X SEO, which is search engine optimization. Vintage ballerina chalkware table lamp with lace drape dress. Mid-century figurine, 1087 CAP. Honestly, that's fine, but I probably wouldn't use it. Got the eBay description. It has all kinds of information here. I'm not going to read it. If you want to pause it and read through it, but it gives condition. And obviously, this is just all AI generated. So you'd have to go through and kind of check and make sure everything's accurate, probably change some stuff. But it can give you a good idea on kind of just a baseline to do a description or a title if you're completely lost on the item you're selling. It's very rare that I would ever use this anyway, but I have used it some recently, like for this lamp, and it was very helpful to help me figure out the CAP 1087. And you can just keep going. Like it says, I can also optimize the listing further for collectibles, lamps, chalkware category, add recommended price range. Let's just type, what should I list it for on eBay? Again, I do not recommend you using this information. It can be wrong, it can be inaccurate, but it is a great tool to point you in the right direction for certain items. Here are some similar lamps that compare to yours. It's showing me some Etsy stuff here. You got some that are $199, $375, $95, $300. Now, again, I checked the sold comps, and these ballerina lamps were not flying off the shelves. There were a lot more listed than what's sold. So I didn't think I was even going to get $75 for mine, but like I said, it sold in about 5 or 6 days at $75 plus shipping. But what I really wanted to know was more about the CAP and the 1087, exactly what that meant, and this was able to get me there. Okay, let's take a look at something else. I got this fan down here. Oh, it's heavy. It's an old fan from the 20s, a Westinghouse. I found these before, and the blades are usually brass, which are better, but these blades are kind of like plastic. And at first I thought, are these Bakelite? Did they make Bakelite blades? I wasn't sure. And I'm looking at them, and they don't look like they've been replaced. So I'm not too familiar about fans like this because I've not found a lot, but I have a really nice Emerson $1,000 brass blade fan downstairs. But this one was throwing me off. So I wanted to do some research. So I turned to ChatGPT. So let's just ask it a question about the fan. So I just typed in, I found an old Westinghouse fan. The blades aren't brass, but seem to be a plastic. Could they be Bakelite? They could be, but most likely they are not Bakelite. Here's how to tell and what they probably are. Here it goes on to say they are almost certainly not Bakelite, but instead an early plastic, such as tinite, polystyrene, phenolic resin. Here it gives some pretty decent information. The sound test, tap the blade gently with your fingernail. Bakelite is a high-pitched clack like a tapping ceramic sound. Plastic is a duller thunk. To me, it sounds more like ceramic than a thunk. The rub and smell test, which I already knew about for the Bakelite, gives some information on the color, more information on what Westinghouse fans typically use. It's asking me to send a photo of the blade so it can identify it. I'm going to actually send the model number for this one and see if it can find it based on that. Give it the model number here and see what kind of information. I tried looking for the model number online. I didn't find much information. There wasn't currently any on eBay. Good catch. Thanks for providing the model number. That helps a lot based on the info. Here's a more informed assessment of your fan and whether the blades could be Bakelite. Tells the time period here, which is 1920s. Says the historical record indicates for this model, the expected blades are metal, not plastic or Bakelite. Since the original model used metal blades, plastic or Bakelite replacements would mean someone changed them, or you may have a later reproduction model, or it's been mislabeled. It's definitely possible that the blades were replaced. Give some more information about how to check, to try to determine. And then asking it what could the blades actually be. It gives even more information, like the tinite here. Slightly flexible, smooth finish, can warp over time, usually cream, tan, or translucent amber. Gives a sweet or vinegar smell when heated. Used on many Westinghouse power air style fans. So with this kind of information you're getting, it's just categorized so much nicer than trying to Google search and go to web pages with a bunch of ads coming up everywhere, And again, I want to make the point that it can be wrong. It can give wrong information. But then again, so can Google. If you're searching, you go to a forum and somebody says, hey, it's this, They could be wrong, right? This is just a tool to try to narrow down what you have. All kinds of different types of fan blades, when they were produced, how to tell if you have them. I'm going to have to do even more research because I still think mine could be this Bakelite type, but usually not Bakelite itself. It's hard, brittle, dark brown and black, feels heavy for plastic, clacky when tapped like ceramic. If your blades are light colored or slightly flexible, not phenolic. I know I'm butchering that. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But that describes my blades to a T, right? They're heavy for plastic. So when I list them, I can mention that I believe it's this material, but not 100% sure. And I can describe the fan blades better, right? And then I got this pair of vintage Asics shoes. I could not find any information looking up the style or model number on these. At one point, I was thinking maybe they're fake. And then I tried ChatGPT and ended up finding out some information on them. So I'm just going to ask it, I need information on GT 2050 Asics shoes, searching for information. Good question. I couldn't find much official current info on a model called GT 2050 as an active Asics shoe. It seems to be mostly a vintage model. Here's what the research shows plus some related content. The 2050 appears in older Asics catalogs and is referenced to retro or heritage in discussions. There are vintage GT 2050 shoes listed for sale on eBay. On Outdoor Review, someone praised the GT 2050. These shoes are the best fitting, most comfortable shoes I've ever owned. They ran 2 marathons in them. So we're starting to get some information here now that they do exist. Down here at the bottom, it says, if you like, I can look up actual vintage GT 2050s for sale right now with trusted sellers. Do you want me to do that? Sure. And here's what's interesting is when I first researched these, right, there was not any information. I had to ask it a lot of questions. But now, since I've listed these and I'm making this video, it says there's a vintage Asics GT 2050 gel listed for $400, new without tags. That's my listing. So it's already updated the information and knowledge right on these. But before it couldn't find anything. I actually was searching old websites from the Wayback Machine to find examples of these shoes even existing, which is why I decided to price mine $400. I do have some interest, so I don't know if they're going to sell for $400, but I figured I'd try because people, collect shoes. I believe these are from 2001 or 2002. I can't even remember now exactly because ChatGPT ended up finding it in a magazine article or a sales article. Let's ask it what year did they release. And again, now it's showing me a vintage listing on eBay for Asics GT 2050. Mentions online that these dates were around the year 2000, which is again my information I put out there online based on what ChatGPT found when I did my first search, and it found it in an old magazine ad from the Wayback Machine or something. I'm not going to get the same results as when I first researched it, but it was very helpful. It says it's not super precisely documented, at least in publicly available Asics archive sources, but early 2000s is consistent across multiple sources. And here's the question it asked me before. If you like, I can try digging into archived catalogs, old Asics catalogs, or even running shoe databases and see if I can find the exact model launch documentation. Do you want me to do that? Yes. And that's the thing I've noticed about using this. It doesn't give you the best information right out. You just have to keep answering questions and kind of having a conversation with it, right? Show it more information, show it pictures when you need to, and it can eventually bring out information if it's anywhere online. On Asics' own site, Gel NYC 2055s, okay, that's not it. Sports Style, Social Media, GT 2050s from the early 2000s. Archived catalog evidence from the lafoot.com site. On Reddit, users discussing the GT 2050 tied to other oddball big box store Asics form from 2004 to 2005. This is not official stuff, but again, you'd be getting the same results doing Google searches, right? Trying to find information and trying to figure out what is real and what's not. This is just listing it all out in an easy to read process. So that's what I really like about using this so far. Again, the best research is just do a search on eBay, filter by sold and completed, and see what's actually sold versus what's listed. That's always going to be the best, but sometimes you get a rare item, you don't know what it is exactly, you need to ask it questions. And here we are, we're at the question. If you like, I can check archived Asics catalogs, like old PDF catalogs from Asics via the Wayback Machine. If you're not familiar with what the Wayback Machine is, it basically just takes photos of the internet throughout the years. You can literally go back on there and look at websites or web pages on eBay from the early 2000s even 90s, where it's been collecting this information since that amount of time, right? And you just don't find that in Google, doing basic searches, at least not with a lot of work. I won't need to do that because I already know, the results of it, but it was very helpful in finding information on these shoes. I was going to put them up for $50 on eBay. I was a little bit worried they weren't real. Now I have them listed for $400 with some interested buyers. I'm hoping to get at least $200 for them. I don't know if I'll get $400, but I'll let them sit for a while. There's one person wanted to buy them, but they lived in another country and wanted me to do free international shipping or something, which I don't do. But if I would have put them on there for $50, they probably would have sold about instantly, right? I would have been in one of those videos saying, well, I probably listed these too cheap. I couldn't find any information. So one of the questions I get a lot is about how I keep track of my expenses. eBay is already keeping track of sales, and Amazon, wherever you sell, usually keeps track of sales. But I like to keep a track of how much money I'm spending on the items and how much I'm spending at garage sales and shipping supplies, stuff like that. So you can use ChatGPT if you're not familiar with, how to make your own spreadsheets. I use Google Sheets, which is basically Excel. It's free to use as long as you have a Google account. But you can just use ChatGPT to make it and pretty much be your own programmer and tell it what to do, right? So I just typed in, I need a spreadsheet in Google Sheets for all my eBay expenses. We'll send that information to ChatGPT. Absolutely, we can make Google Sheets template to track all your eBay expenses. And there you see it's structuring it out. There's what the sheet's going to look like. Got the date, item description, eBay number, purchase price, sale price, eBay fees, PayPal processing fees, even though that would be eBay fees now, shipping cost, packaging cost. Now from here, you can just kind of tell it what you want. Like if you don't want the eBay item number in here, you say remove that from the column or change it. Add whatever, you just type in what you want. But let's say you're at a point where you're happy with it. It says I can create the actual Google Sheet file with formulas ready to use. Do you want me to make it so you can just upload and start entering your data? Yes. Building it out, there's a structure and you can just copy that over. But it's also asking if you want to generate just a Google Sheets file. Yes. Give me a file. And it says, here's your ready to upload Google Sheets file tracking for eBay expenses. You just download this file, then you can upload it to Google Sheets and all that information will be there. You'll have your table. It'll keep track of everything. There's a lot of people that sell these Excel sheets and stuff for a lot of money. I mean, you can even have it make pie charts and all kinds of stuff, right? If you just type it in, tell it to do that, go through the trial and error. It'll do all the coding, all the calculations and all that stuff. Then eventually you get to where you download the file. Very helpful for people who don't know how to do that manually. I'm sure there's not a lot. I learned years ago how to do it manually. It can be time consuming and I always forget. So I have to go back in if I'm making a new sheet and kind of relearn the stuff and I Google certain information, but this makes it so much easier. So I thought this would help a lot of people out as well, but I think that's going to about do it for the video. There's some examples how I'm using AI technology for my eBay business. Got some more, so if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button. Let me know. If enough people are interested, I can make another video showing some more tips. I'm still exploring different ideas like how to improve my listing process, maybe do more bulk listings, stuff like that. So if you're interested in a video like that, make sure to let me know. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, flipping_junk. And this has been Wick. Until next time.